Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. In this video I'll be speaking about the various learning techniques and how to make the best use of your valuable time. Self-study, classroom training, distance learning, online learning, blended learning. The means of being able to learn a new discipline is constantly growing and evolving, as is the amount of disciplines available. But one thing that seems to be overlooked are the techniques for learning itself. After you leave school, college or university, you're expected to be able to learn by yourself and for the rest of your life. But are your learning techniques effective? We hope that this video spent addressing the issue of learning skills will pay dividends in reducing time to actually learn. Now, a lot of work has been done over the past few decades about how people learn, and we're going to cover a range of techniques that may make your learning more effective. Learning is quite a personal thing. What might work for you might not work for somebody else, and vice versa. So, let's have a look at some of the principles to effective learning. You can learn anything if you have a goal that requires it. This implies that you must connect what you're learning to your personal goals in a credible way. Trying to learn just because you've been asked or told to is very difficult. Learning how to learn is the core skill. This is probably the one skill that was never openly mentioned in all the years that you've been spent at school, but it's the one where there's the most reward for the smallest investment. Anyone can learn faster by structuring the information. Just diving it right in and getting stuck into your studies can feel really satisfying. But by just taking a step back and taking some time to organise yourself first can increase overall effectiveness, even if it doesn't feel quite so satisfying in the short term. Intelligence is not fixed. Let's have a think about that for a minute. Intelligence is not fixed. You probably know the concept of a single, all-encompassing, tangible thing called intelligence is quite unpopular nowadays. There is growing supporting evidence to show that what we might instinctively think of as intelligence can be increased by several kinds of mental activity. I'm pretty sure you've all heard about these brain training games and apps that might be available. These have all been designed to keep your brain active and stimulated. Learning more means earning more. Those who learn more and do so continually over their lifetime tend to do much better in whatever career they've chosen. We all know the industry we're involved in, bookkeeping, is continually evolving, and as such we must continue to learn to remain relevant and valid. Additionally, learning more can expand your professional portfolio, thereby hopefully making you more appealing to your current and prospective clients. Everything that you pay attention to, either consciously or unconsciously, will be remembered permanently. This is a big statement, but it's absolutely true. What seems to get lost is a way to access these memories. So effective learning requires you to be there in the moment and to make the things you learn memorable or easy to access. Anything that makes what you are learning different helps to make it memorable. So does the emotional content you associate with the material. Leading on quite nicely from the previous is being in the right state of mind to study. In order to learn effectively, you need to be in the right headspace. There's no use trying to learn anything new if your mind's preoccupied on something else. If you think about a situation where you seem to soak up knowledge without any real effort, you'll probably find that most, if not all, of the following aspects came into play. Find a personal reason to want to learn the material. This might be something that's already clear, but it might also be something that you have to create. Creating a desire to learn something specific can be tricky, so it might help to think in terms of missing skills that you would like to have payroll, for example, or you might need to connect the knowledge to your larger goals. If you don't have a good reason to learn, learning will not happen easily and may not happen at all. You can't be forced to learn. Having come up with your reason for learning something, you need to translate these reasons into motivation. Asking yourself questions like, what's in it for me, or how am I going to benefit, might help. For Most people creating an emotional reason adds extra motivation. Try to visualize, hear or feel a scenario that resulted from having learnt the material. So for payroll, imagine being able to say to a client, yes, absolutely, no problem. As a fully qualified payroll specialist, I'd love to take that off your hands. Find a way to make the material relevant to you right now. One way to do this is to ask, what's most important about this material? Or how can I use this material right away? Doing this will bring the goal to life. This step is similar to the previous, but it strengthens your desire to succeed. Build anticipation about learning the material. Imagine what insights might come to you when you really understand the material. Not just being in a position of reading it for the first time, but really having an in-depth understanding of the various concepts. Imagine polishing off assessments with ease or completing that final exam easily. Imagine being able to answer a technical question that a client might ask you. Whatever it takes, find a way to want to get started. Have positive expectations. Expectations are like self-fulfilling prophecies. What you expect is what you get. So, with this in mind, you want to build a positive expectation that you will find the material easy to understand, that it will be interesting, that it will be exciting, that it will be useful, that it will connect up to what you already know, that you'll be able to use the knowledge easily and transfer it to your professional offering. Have a calm mind. Learning something seems to work much better if you're relaxed, calm, and in the correct frame of mind. Some things that might help: consciously relaxing, maybe playing some music that helps you to stay relaxed, deep breathing exercises before you start and occasionally during your learning period, having an organised place to study so that you're not constantly distracted by other parts of your life, giving yourself rewards when you have completed a task effectively. This could be anything from having a biscuit with your tea to giving yourself 10 minutes to catch up on social media. Okay, so we've got ourselves in the right frame of mind to study. We know why we want to learn the course. We're motivated. Our anticipation levels have peaked. We are ready. So, how are we going to understand the new material? What follows next is a list of ways that you can use variety in understanding new material. Make a general outline of what you're learning. Ask yourself, what will I be able to do differently because of learning this? Browse through the material, looking at headings, pictures, tables, etc. Ask, what do I already know about this? If it hasn't already been done for you, break the material down into small chunks. Ask yourself questions before or after looking at each chunk. Use mind maps. Tick off each section as you read it, or perhaps more importantly, when you understand it. Highlight new information. Using a highlighter can be useful, but only when used sparingly. Try to vary the ways of emphasizing the important points. Summarize the material out loud. Put key ideas on post-it notes and arrange them in different patterns on your desk or board or wall. I remember when my wife was studying, she had post-it notes all over the wall, along each edge of the monitor, on the fridge, you name it. But over time, as each concept or rule became committed to memory, the amount of post-its became less and less until there were none left. Make notes of your own thoughts, not of the course content. There's no benefit to be gained by simply copying from the material or even paraphrasing it. If you can, try to generate your own version. Go for a walk. Your brain seems to consolidate what you have been learning if you give it some peaceful cooling down time. So, as you can see, there is a whole host of ways that we can use variety to help us understand new material, but how do we memorize it? Here are a few points that might help you memorize new content. Decide to remember. I know this sounds odd, but you have to be in the right frame of mind to learn anything. Take regular breaks. Studying in smaller chunks is often far more productive than cramming in study over a prolonged period. review notes regularly. After an hour, after a day, a week, a month, or even 6 months, there's no real end date to studying, unless you know it inside out and upside down, of course. Generate visual images. This might involve moving, interaction, and colour. I'm sure you've all heard the DRCR idea of driving on the left and crashing on the right. Well, some people might find it easier to paint a visual image of this. So imagine driving a huge flashy car on the left and crashing it if you decide to drive it on the right. The visual aspect makes it much easier to remember DR left and CR right. Use the same background music to review as when you learned, and maybe even consider associating particular music with particular topics. Use flashcards with the key content on them. Many students have found this technique particularly effective when revising for their exams. For example, Training Link alumna and now companion member of the ICB, Christine Applin, swore by this technique, using flashcards extensively both during and after her studies. Use mnemonics or acronyms. You may or may not have already heard about dead click and pearls, but these are quite common when learning what goes where in terms of debits and credits. Review at bedtime. If you're looking to solidify your thoughts, lightly reading through your course content before you nod off can certainly help. Overlearn. What I mean by this is learn beyond the point at which you have complete recall. This might sound tedious, and well, quite honestly it can be just that, but learning a concept to that degree would pay huge dividends. Okay, so now we're at the point that we're studying away quite happily, motivation levels are high, our state of mind is hopefully sound, we're using a variety of methods to understand and memorise the new material, but we mustn't forget to review and reflect on the process. After each of your study sessions, review the process you followed. It's important to reflect on what you learn, whether it be a new topic in your course book, an article you've read in the press, or even your own revision notes. Reflecting can often help to cement those points, ensuring they stay with you. What worked well, what didn't, and what would you do differently next time? Do the same thing at the end of each week, after each assessment, even after each exam. Make notes or observations and use them to improve your next study session. The next topic we're going to look at is showing you know. Demonstrating to yourself that you really do understand and remember can really increase your confidence that your learning is really working. Our Facebook group, Student Street, is a fantastic example of this concept in practice. Guiding or advising someone else can be particularly useful in reinforcing what you know. Taking Christine Applin again as an example, she is a great advocate of showing you know, as demonstrated in the various forums and study groups that she's associated with. Moving on from this, taking part in the ICB's branch meetings, engaging in the forum, attending the annual Inspire Tour, and even attending this online summit are all great opportunities to show that you know. I do hope you found this video useful, and thanks very much for your time. In closing, I'd like to leave the following quote on the screen. This is from someone who has been associated with tutoring and writing ICB courses for well over 14 years now, and has an encyclopedic knowledge of studying, tutoring and the ICB syllabus. Bookkeeping is like learning a new language. You have to set yourself a study plan and stick to it. It takes practice and repetition. It's a process that builds as you work through the chapters and levels. Don't expect yourself to know everything immediately. Try to study a little every day. If you study just once a week, you will find yourself having to repeat what you did the previous week, as you will forget it. Write notes, bullet points and summaries. Having these as a quick reference guide will help massively, and they will be in your own words. If you don't understand something, then don't be afraid to ask. That's what your tutor is there for. In bookkeeping, there is a reason and a logical process to everything you do. When you find the reason behind what you're doing, then it's much easier to retain the information. Enjoy it. If you enjoy what you're doing, then the whole process is easier.